And this Teimanish Yid came over and he's like, can I draw you a caricature? So Rabbi Shlomo was he hadn't started the concert, it's 3 hours late, everyone's, and he starts the concert, and he plays a concert, and Rabbi Yoel was with him, and right after the concert, so the one who was running the concert comes over and mamish, because Rabbi Shlomo, I don't know if you ever saw a ball of money, like one of these, just. So Shlomo put it in his pocket, okay? And then he looked to Rabbi Yoel and he's like, this kid needs money, like this caricature. Rabbi Yoel was like, he could use some money. Rabbi Shlomo just took in his pocket, took the whole ball. Just without, he didn't count, he just gave, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000, we have no idea. Rabbi Shlomo Mamish lived in this way of just giving, of Mamish just giving. And because Rabbi Shlomo was so big in Lakewood, he was the protege in Lakewood. So, and as time went on, so there was one time Rabbi Yoel was at the Kaisel with Rabbi Shlomo. Rabbi Shlomo would make these Kabbalah Shabbos by the Kaisel. 1,000 people. He would always daven late by the Kaisel. Like all the minions had already gone home, and then Rabbi Shlomo shows up for Kabbalah Shabbos. With 1,000, and they would just sing and sing and sing by the Kaisel. And one time it was by the Kaisel with Rabbi Shlomo, and one of these chevra, kind of like yeshivashers, came up to Rabbi Shlomo, they were hawking a bit, oh, Rabbi Shlomo, do you remember anything from Rabbi Aaron? Rabbi Aaron, do you remember any of the Torahs from Rabbi Aaron Kotler? And Rabbi Shlomo was saying Torahs to everyone, and he just looked over, and he's like, every single word. And he looked back. Meaning when he went out, because Lubavitcher Rebbe wanted him to go out, he was going out with Reb Aaron Kotler. He was going out with the Torahs that he had, and he was a genius. He was a genius in learning. But you'll see, he took the Torahs and he made them so much in the nefesh and the neshama. He woke people up. Remember, this was a time, the 60s, very lost people. It was a time of lost souls. I think it's an important thing. It was a time of lost souls. And I ask the world now, are we living in a time of lost souls? Because in the time of Rabbi Shlomo, it was a time of lost souls. Who was lost? And the whole house of love and prayer was this kind of response of, let's just help. Let's help bring people back. Let's help bring people back. And he opened a place where people had gotten very, Jewish life had become very much also boxy. Meaning the time of the hippies was like this pushing back, that after the war, after World War II, the whole world became very boxy. You remember Leave It to Beaver? You guys even know what that means? Honey, I'm home. And all the kids had to be perfectly lined up, and the hair has to be slicked this way, and the cake has to be like this lemon chiffon. It's everything became very plastic. And the world was pushing back to that. So they were running to India. People were running to all sorts of things. And Yidden were going off a lot. And Rabbi Shlomo was making this space where people could find hope again. And Rabbi Shlomo would start, he made music. All of his music is very, very simple. The music is very few chords, but he touched nigunim that people say were mamish from the Beis HaMikdash. He was bringing back these nigunim. The whole world was singing these nigunim. And he was in a time that they had vinyl. So he wrote songs about Shabbos, and on the cover of the album, he wrote, to sing the songs of Shabbos, and in big letters please do not play this on Shabbos. And many stories of people who they didn't know, and they're just playing this vinyl on Shabbos, Yidden, and they're just singing. And he was finding a way. They told him, don't play it on Shabbos, but this is the 60s and the 70s. And people started awakening to something. He was bringing people back in a very, very big way. He had no money at the end. He had no money. One of the things that Rabbi Yoel would always point out is that Rabbi Shlomo would travel a lot. He traveled all over the place. We welcome our friends around the world who are speaking about Rabbi Shlomo. And Rabbi Shlomo had these big suitcases. And people think he would go and do these concerts and what are these suitcases filled with? They're filled with one thing. All of his Sfarim. Wherever he went, he mamish took a beis medrash. After a concert, he would go to his hotel room and just learn. Just learn. He felt I have a avodah to do, but I'm a ben Torah. And he learned and learned. He never stopped learning. He loved learning. Torah. He loved Torah. Shlomo's big neshama. One time I heard something. The Amshin of Rebbe was very, very close. The Amshin of a Rebbe to Reb Shlomo. So I heard from somebody who was very close to Amshinov. So he said something. He said, Reb Shlomo, after he went to the Olam Ha'emes, so this is the Lashon, this is what I heard. They say that they just dusted him off a little bit, and they sat him beside the Baal Shem Tov. Just, a little brushing off. And they sat him beside the Baal Shem Tov. So I want to see a little Torah tonight from Shlomo. There's a very dear friend of ours, Shlomo Katz, Shlita, very, very dovuk to Reb Shlomo. He runs the whole Reb Shlomo project around the world. And he wrote beautiful Sfarim. This is one of the Sfarim. This is Nifla, the Torahs of Reb Shlomo. And wondrous. I remember the first time that I went to Reb Shlomo Katz's house, I just asked him, I said, can I come for Shabbos? I was a bacher. I said, can I come for Shabbos? He said, sure, come. So I went to his house for Shabbos. And as a bacher, you don't always realize what married people have to do before Shabbos. You're all just in bacher land. And I didn't realize people introduce the kids and stuff. I was just Shabbos. So Shlomo took me to his office. And he's just sit here, you can relax here. And Rabbi Shlomo Katz in his office has a giant picture of Lubavitcher Rebbe. One of these big ones that you sometimes see in Lubavitcher plate, as big as the wall. And then he put on a little video for me. Because Rabbi Shlomo Katz has been putting together over years everything from Rabbi Shlomo, Carlebach. And what this video was Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach giving a hesped for Lubavitcher Rebbe. Could you imagine? A hesped, a eulogy. That it was Rabbi Shlomo giving a eulogy for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is one of the most, when I saw the words that he was saying, the beauty of just, so this is a big person. It's a big person who has really spent his whole life just giving, mamish just giving. So he says a little Torah here. I wanted to print it out, so I'm sorry that I couldn't, the machine stopped working. So I'll read it. It's a bit of a different departure than what we usually do, but I'm going to read it in English. And sometimes when you hear things in the Mama Lashon, in English, it has a way of doing things. And this one's called the Headquarters of Prayer. So he says like this: Avram Avinu is the one who initiated Shachris, the morning prayer. It comes from Avram Avinu. So he could have been the one to initiate Ma'ariv in the middle of the night. Why did he make Shachris? Avram Avinu loves everybody, so why not start at 12 o'clock at night? If Avram Avinu is the one that loves everybody, start, in the middle of the night, start. Why does Avram Avinu begin in the morning? Why is the world of Avram Avinu a morning time? Why is he the one for the morning? So he says, now open your hearts, friends. So, Reb Shlomo. Reb Shlomo would ask a question. And by the way, Reb Shlomo was very dovuk to Reb Nachman. Very dovuk to Reb Nachman. And whenever Reb Nachman says da, So da means a number of things. Da means he's bringing something down from the Olam HaAtzilus. And da also means that he is telling you, open your hearts. I'm about to say something. Open your hearts.
Why just chakras? Why didn't he do independent
Huh? If you're getting, double dipping, it means Hashem is winking at you. So Rabbi Shlomo says, when you love somebody, you can't wait to see if they love you or not. First of all, just that line. If you love somebody, you can't wait to see if they love you or not.
What would be a power with that?
So let's see this. You have to be the one to begin. If you love somebody, you have to be the one to begin. You have to begin. Like the first morning ray of light. Before the sun comes out, it doesn't say, is it day already? No, not yet. Let's wait, half an hour later. Hey, is the moon still around? Yeah, okay, I guess I'll, stop. It doesn't go that way. The sun comes out and brings the day. The sun starts and makes moves. When the sun comes out, it proclaims the day has arrived. The sun is power. It says, proclaiming it is day. It's the same way with Yidden. The beginning is Avram Avinu. We come out into the world and we say, hey, from now on it's day. Period. From now on we love each other. We have to make the move. We have to start. We have to bring the day. From now on it has to be something else. From now on this is the way it's going to be. It has to be light. It has to be love. So Rabbi Shlomo says, friends, I could swear to you that if all of us Yidden will be living like Avram Avinu, could you imagine what a world it would be? Sometimes I have the feeling that the world is angry at us because we don't love them enough. The world is waiting for us to come out like a ray of sun and love the world. Who should hug whom? We waiting for the world to say, we're going to be all victim-like, come and give us reparations, come give us a hug while we're licking our wounds. We have to go and hug the world. We have to go and show love to the world. It's us. Rabbi Shlomo says the world knows they're waiting for us to come and love them. The world is waiting for the Jewish nation to come and love. If we were just to come down to the world just to hear this Torah, dayenu. The morning after the three angels come to visit Avram and let him know that Sodom will be destroyed, Avram Avinu wakes up early in the morning and he begins to pray. Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the world, maybe there's some tzaddikim who can save Sodom. Everybody knows the Torah of Tzaddik HaKoyin, which is earth-shaking. The first time in the Torah we find someone praying is Avram Avinu, praying for Sodom. Which means if that is the headquarters, the first time we see prayer in the Torah is Avram Avinu praying for Sodom, which means this is prayer. And he's not just praying for, he's praying for people that are wicked. The worst, lowest people in the world, which must be, this is prayer. This is Avram Avinu. Could you imagine what Rabbi Shlomo is feeling right now when he's saying this, of what the Jewish nation should be? That means that the headquarters for prayer is here. Why was Avram Avinu praying for Sodom? Why was he praying so hard? So he says, Our Heilige Zayde Avram, Ilan Meir, this is for you. Our Heilige Zayde Avram, prophetically saw that beyond all the evil of Sodom, Gewalt, Rabbi Shlomo would say Gewalt, Matzosi David Avdi, the Medrash says that I found my servant, I found King David, is hiding in Sodom. The Medrash asks, Heichon Matsasi, where did you find your servant? Matsasi b'Sidon. I found him in Sidon. Where did God find King David in Sidon? Remember, friends, our holy mother Ruth was the great-granddaughter of Lot. So Avram Avinu knew that something had to be saved there. Something very holy is going on in this place. Deep, 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 hiding in such a messed up place. And because of the prayer of Avram Avinu, Lot was saved, and ultimately the Mashiach comes from this lineage. You see how deep this is? Ultimately, the redemption of the world depends on this one prayer, which is awesome. Avram Avinu is praying for Sodom. Is that not crazy? The most low, rotten city in the world. The law in Sodom was that if you're caught giving something to a poor man, they kill you. Basically, it was the biggest crime in the world. Why did Hashem destroy Sodom on that day? So he says, listen to this. The daughter of Lot was Mamish, Avram Avinu's greatest pupil. The daughter of Lot was Avram Avinu's greatest pupil. There was an old poor man living in Sodom. He was sick but still alive. So in Sodom, if there was a poor old man, he eventually better die. How is he still living? So they investigated a little bit, and they found out that Lot's little girl, who was 12 years old, is feeding him. So Nebuch, do you know what they did? They put her on top of a roof, covered her with honey, and the bees ate her up. That's what they would do in Sodom. So how could Avram Avinu pray for Sodom? So he says, listen to the craziest thing. Lot, the nephew of Avram Avinu, lived in Sodom. And he had two daughters. Eventually Ruth, who's the mother of King David, and eventually the mother of Mashiach came from Lot. So Avram Avinu's eyesight was so deep. Avram Avinu could see deep into things. When he looked at Sodom, he saw the fire of Mashiach burning. Could you imagine? That means that behind all the evil, behind all the disgusting, terrible things that were going on, Avram Avinu saw that mamish behind all of this, he saw something holy emerging, something holy happening. You know, friends, the Gemara says, Matzasi David Avdi, I found my servant David. Where did you find him? In Sodom. So the first prayer is for Sodom. And he says, I want to share a story with you. Reb Shlomo knew stories. Reb Shlomo knew the deepest stories. Reb Shlomo knew all the stories. He loved stories. Imamish, Reb Shlomo story. Reb Shlomo stories, and maybe we'll oil them some of the stories. Reb Shlomo knew stories. He loved stories. Yosel the miser. He loved stories. So he says like this, you don't have to be so close to somebody. Look at even just these words. You don't have to be so close to somebody to tell them facts. To tell somebody a story, you have to be very close. You work in a business, you know. Facts is, we don't have to be so close. For me to tell you a story of what's going on, a story you have to be closer. So he says, until the whole Hashem to the world, even amongst Yidden, the most important thing is telling each other good words, holy teachings. But the holy Baal Shem Tov is bringing down the light of Mashiach, and the first sign of the light of Mashiach is that people will tell each other stories again. Children who are so pure and holy, they're not interested in your teachings. What do kids want to hear? All they want to hear is stories. Children love hearing stories. They're so pure. You start telling your kids, so let's just go over some data points about the Parsha, Make sure you know all these, technical points. They're like boring. That's right. You have to be able to say stories. Kids love stories. My kids, they'll just, anytime, Tati, just tell us a story. Any story. Just tell us a story. Any story. I make up stories all the time. And we'll do what I call past stories. So I'll start a few words of the story, and then they'll do a few words of the story, and then they'll say pass. And then I'll continue the story. So before you go to bed, it's actually a very nice thing. It's one of the things I like to do with my kids, is doing a past story. It's something that my mother would do with us. It's also very creative. It lets you think. So once upon a time, there was a man of great power and stature. And one day, he felt like he lost all of his power, and he couldn't even lift up a pencil. Pass. So imagine now your child hears that, and he's like, okay, and then they just, like, you've brought them into a world of man, great power, and then all of a sudden he lost his power, and he can't pick up a pencil, and they're like, you've pulled them into a world of stories. So the light that Mashiach is coming as we start telling each other stories again. You know what's so special about children? When you tell them a good story, you just barely finish the story and they want to hear it again. Isn't that amazing? You tell like the old people, you know, like all these like guys like us, started saying, oh yeah, I heard that one. Yeah, I heard. Okay, I heard that one. You tell a kid, they're like, you finish the story, like, say it again.
Yeah, let's read the same book again.
The same. We just read the book, like, because for them it's not about the content of the story; it's they're in the story. They're mamish in it. They're living it. It's like you made it alive. They want to go into that world again. Kids love stories. We, the so-called older people, we're so mamish nebuch lost. We're so lost. When we hear a story once, we think, yeah, I heard that one before. Who's talking about knowing? Says Rabbi Shlomo. The story's not the question if you know it or you don't. It's about a story. You're in a story. It's so close before Mashiach is coming. Suddenly we're entering the age of stories again. I don't know if you're aware of it. Something happened to the world. Suddenly, storytelling is a very big thing. Now listen to this. I heard this story from the Bobov Rebbe, who heard it from his father. The Bobov said that the holy Tzanzer Rebbe, the Heilige Divrei Chaim, would tell this story a lot of times. I don't know if you all are rich people, but what kind of a job does a schlepper like me look for? I'm looking for a job where I don't have to do anything. I just come in and sit, learn a little bit, daven a little bit. By the end of the week, I get paid and that's it. So the Heilige Rebbe Moshe, he would say the following. He mamish wanted to learn, study and pray all day long, but he needed parnasa. He needed money. He had a wife and children. He needed a little, jabala. So he started looking for one. He was told that there's a whiskey factory in Poland and they need a new manager. Okay. I'm going to manage the whiskey factory. The truth is he didn't have the faintest idea how to make whiskey, but who cares? A manager? I'll manage. We'll figure this out. So he goes to the owner and he says, I want you to know, I'm a famous whiskey manager. I'll take you for 4 weeks and we'll see how things are going. He moved into his office. He brought a talus and a few good svarim. He locks the door and he just sits there and learns. It's a good story already.
Your turn.
One day there's a knock on the door. They have a problem with the machines. They go to the manager. Oy vey! He doesn't know anything, he says. Tell me the truth. What did the last manager do? And they told him. So he says, do the same thing till I get more familiar with everything here. Basically, anyone who knocks on his door would say to him, like, what to do? He says, do the same thing the last manager did. And later on, I'll get more familiar. But now, friends, do you really think that the Heilige Rebbe Moshe takes money for nothing? This is the Heilige Tzaddik. You think he takes money for nothing? From the moment on when he moved into the factory, the sales went up 500%. He's sitting in his manager's office with his talus and tefillin, and the whiskey is popping out of his factory. Because suddenly, the whiskey had the taste of Gan Eden. The owner of the whiskey factory comes to the Moshe, who mamish didn't do anything. He says to him, you're the greatest manager we ever had. What we're doing with the whiskey, it's not even the same whiskey. I'm getting orders from all over Poland. We can't even manage the demand. In the meantime, he doesn't know anything. Whenever somebody comes and asks him what he does, he just says, do the same thing as yesterday. He's sitting and learning.
You get a job like this.
As long as you're steiging. You should know there were people that would take tzaddikim as like they would make them sign like on a business contract. Does this a lot.
Wait, what?
And that he's like a silent partner in the business. So he's sitting learning and the business is going up 500%. So the owner of the factory happened to be a little bit of a holy yid, the actual owner. And he mamish respected Moshe very much. He says, could I invite you to have a Malav Malka with me? This goes on for a few weeks and they're having a Malav Malka together. On Saturday night, one Saturday night, the Malav Malka, the feast of King David, Rabbi Moshe didn't show up. The owner knows he's always coming. So he's a little bit worried about him. He goes over to the house and obviously he was a very special person. He looks through the window and he sees Rabbi Moshe sitting with another person. This person was not from this world. He's sitting with somebody who's just shining. That much the owner knew. He knew that it's not for him to be there, so he walked away. The next morning he comes and the owner says to Rabbi Moshe, I was worried about you last night and I took the liberty of going over to your house. I looked through the window and I saw that you were sitting with somebody. And I thought he was not from this world. Who are you sitting with? He says, I'll tell you the truth. I was sitting with David HaMelech. David Malka Mashiach. So he says to him, what did David HaMelech tell you? He says, I'll tell you over a Torah. So David HaMelech is coming to Rabbi Moshe, the manager of the whiskey factory. At Malav Malka, and he says, I want to tell you a little Torah. A Torah from King David. At Malav Malka. The feast of David Malka Mashiach. So David HaMelech says, the Medrash says, Matzasi David Avdi. I found David, my servant. And the Medrash says, Heicha Matzasi. Where did I find him? And he says, B'Sdoim. So King David came to tell me that B'Sdoim is the initials. Sdoim is the Rosh Tevis. Sdoim is the initials. B'Sudas David Malka. At the meal of David HaMelech. You'll learn the secret of Sdoim. Sdoim is also Rosh Tevis, Soy David Mashiach. Sdoim. Hiding in Sdoim is the Soy of David Malka Mashiach. David HaMelech came to me to let me know that wherever a Jew is eating the feast of King David, David HaMelech says, I'll be there. And what else did he tell you? Well, he told me that it's time for me to become a Rebbe. So the Moshe continues and says, David HaMelech told me that tomorrow at 12 o'clock, thousands of people will suddenly come and ask me for my blessing. And I apologize, I'm not going to be able to make it in tomorrow to the whiskey factory. But the sales will continue. Do you know what it says Rabbi Shlomo? Do you know what I wanted to do the first few years when I came to Eretz Yisrael? Shlomo says, I was begging the rabbis, give me a tent. I want to invite all of Israel for the last 10 minutes of Yom Kippur, just the last 10 minutes. All I want to do with all of Israel, I want to tell them, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hashem Elokim. That's all I want to do. Can you just give me a little tent? That every single Yid in Eretz Yisrael, I don't care what political, it doesn't make a difference. Just come and let's all say Shema Yisrael together. I didn't want to gather everyone to say anything bad to them, just to tell them, Gewalt Yidden, do you know how holy this moment is? I swear to you, this moment will bring Mashiach 10 million miles closer. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people would have come. Thousands of people. In Rosh Hashanah, I wish I could have a tent in every city. And mamish by Mincha, the last few minutes of the day, begging, Yidden, please come for 10 minutes. I just want you to hear the shofar. Just come and listen to the shofar together. I want you to hear the deepest voice of your own neshama. You see who Reb Shlomo is? This is Mamish Avram Avinu. And I'm telling you, friends, Mamish, Mashiach would have come most probably by now. But again, what can you do? We have so many beautiful noyachs running the show. And they're really disgusted with their generation. But to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit disgusted with these noyachs. And you and I, hopefully, that we're the Einiklach of Avram Avinu. As much as we love Noach, Noach somehow didn't get through to the generation. He didn't get through. He didn't wake up anyone. And I hope that we can be from the descendants of Avram Avinu. So do you know what Avram Avinu is all about? He sees 3 pagans and he tells them, please come to my house, I'm begging you. Pagans? Come on in. It's interesting, my wife pointed out very beautifully. It was his Ikr Kiriv before he had kids. It takes a good woman to make such an observation. I don't know if you've even thought about that before. Everyone's like, Avram Avinu, invite them all in. Definitely the spirit of Avram Avinu has to be there. Pagans, come. Let's have a Suda together. Let's spend time together. I'm begging you. And it says, Hishanu tachas ha'etz. Please rest upon the tree. Shlomo just opens up every word. Come under the tree. You know what the tree is? Come sit under the tree. Come under the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. He's telling the just come to the Shlomo, the pagans mamish. They got bones through their neck and tattoos on their eyeballs, shrunken heads. They're ready to get you. Just sit under the tree of life. You don't know how powerful Torah is. We could wake them up. We could mamish help them. We could wake them up. It could be the ray of light. That ray of light that says, it is day now. This is Avram Avinu. Shachris. We're proclaiming that it's day. Who has to hug who first? The pagans are going to give us hugs. We have to hug them. The world is waiting for the Jewish people to give some positive energy. Shine the light of Avram Avinu to the world. And he says, I know your heart is so heavy. I know you did so much wrong. He thought they're pigs. He says, don't carry your own luggage. Hishanu tachas ha'etz. Even that, lean on the tree. He doesn't even say sit. He says, just go lean on the tree. Take off your burden. Just touch it, lean on it. Just look at the way Shlomo is learning psukim. Friends, I'm begging you, and I'm mamish calling out all of Israel. Hishanu tachas ha'etz, come lean on the tree of life, you and your children and your families, like the angels told Avram and Sarah. Ke'es chaya. Let it be next year. Let it be next year that Mashiach is coming. Let it be tomorrow. Let it be right now. The Heilige Rupshurser would say that the word ace is beyond time. Zman means time. Zman, zmanim. 1, 2, 3, 4, morning, night. Ace, it says ace lasois lashem. A time to do for God. Ace lasois is any time. It's beyond time. Ke'es chaya. Let it be right now. Let it be right now that the Mashiach will come. So, Mamash, so Avram Avinu was saying, V'yashkef al panei Sodom, and he gazed. Avram Avinu saw Sodom. He's gazing into Sodom. Hashkif is not just looking. V'yashkef means he mamish is seeing something way beyond. And the Medrash says, what did he see? He saw David HaMelech. He saw the absolute destruction of Sodom. But he also saw that Mashiach is coming. So he says, I want to share a story with you. Shlomo loves stories. He said, I had the privilege of learning in Lakewood by Rav Aaron Kotler. And here is the story. I ask our friends, did anybody here hear of Rav Aaron Kotler of Lakewood? And Gadol B'Yisrael. Have you heard of Rav Aaron Kotler? Have you heard, yes or no, my friends, of Rav Aaron Kotler? Have you heard of the great Rabbi Aaron Kotler of Lakewood? Have you heard of Lakewood, New Jersey? Ir HaTorah. Have you heard of Rabbi Aaron Kotler? We ask our friends, have you heard of Rabbi Aaron Kotler? Living Lions and Crispal Webb say no. Now you're hearing of Rabbi Aaron Kotler.
His eyes remind me a lot of Rabbi Chizzuk.
Yes, they're blue, like these beautiful blue eyes. So he says, in 1946, after the war, Rabbi Aaron told us that the chief rabbi of Tehran is coming to be with us in yeshiva for Shabbos. So we all assumed that he's a Sephardic Jew. He's the chief rabbi of Tehran. They gave him a room on the same floor where I was. So before Shabbos, I'm going into the room and I see if it's a Chassidish Yid with the shtreimel and white stockings. So he tells me that he's a Belzer Chassid. I'm going into my room and I take out a Noam Elimelech. I take out the great holy Sefer Noam Elimelech. I take out a Ma'or V'Shemesh and Ber Mayim Chaim. So he says a beautiful thing. He says, if you're a Belzer Chassid, you need those 3 books. I ask our friends, have you heard of the books Noam Elimelech, Ma'or V'Shemesh, and Ber Mayim Chaim? These are holy books, my friends. Have you heard of these holy books? Have you heard of any of these holy books? These are very, very holy books. The Ma'or V'Shemesh changed my life. And he says the Belzer Chassid can't have a Shabbos without them. You could go a Shabbos without a Noam Elimelech, a Ma'or V'Shemesh, and a Ber Mayim Chaim. So this Yid says, you mamish gave me back my neshama. Rabbi Shlomo took him, he had all this from him. He took them off his shelf, he gave them to the chief rabbi of Tehran. And he says, you gave me back my neshama. I thought to myself, what am I going to do here in a misnagdisha yeshiva without a Noam Elimelech? Rabbi Shlomo, don't worry, I have a Noam Elimelech for you. Anyway, we became good friends. It's a long story how we got to Persia and how he became the chief rabbi there. So on Motzi Shabbos, we had a Malav Malka. Rabbi Aaron really gave him a lot of kavod because Mamish had a big hand in turning on the Yidden in Persia. In Tehran, there was no Yiddishkeit, and he was Mamish very strong. His Belzer Chassid with white stockings and a shtreimel was very strong in helping and building Jewish life in Tehran. After the Malav Malka was already 1 o'clock in the morning. This great rabbi says to me, I have to tell you a story. It's a must. Now we're a story inside of a story. These are my favorite stories. A story in a story. In Lakewood, New Jersey, there's a beautiful lake in the middle of the city, and we walked around the lake. He says, before I tell you the story, you have to give me your hand. You have to give me it's called Kiyas Kaf, a binding handshake. You have to swear to me that wherever you have a chance to tell this story, you will tell this story. I wouldn't do this to you, but when my grandfather told me the story, I also had to swear to him that I would tell the story wherever I can. My grandfather's grandfather, who was a chassid Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, told the story to my grandfather. And the Rebbe Melech also made him swear that he would tell the story. I never understood why my grandfather was so strong in telling the story, but now, after the Second World War, I know what he meant. Not only did my grandfather's grandfather make my grandfather swear, but he told him, whomever you tell the story to, make them swear that they will also tell the story. Could you imagine my great-great-grandfather, a chassid of Elimelech, saw so far that he made his grandson swear to him to tell the story. And this chief rabbi told me, I'm telling you exactly the way I heard it from my grandfather. And this is how the story begins. The story is about 200 years ago in a little village next to Lezhensk. There lived a little Nebuch, a little Yidle, Moishele. Moishele had a kretschmer.
What?
Kretschmer means like a little motel. A kretschmer?
No idea what that is.
A kretschmer? Rabbi Isai, come on. That's, no, and even Sfardim know like a shmata, you know.
Shmata, yeah.
A kretschmer is up there with shmata.
I've never heard that word. I know this story. It's a great story.
In those days, the Jews were basically not permitted to do anything in the world besides die. So he had a kretschmer and he sold whiskey. The only reason the government so sweetly permitted them to sell whiskey because it was a dead business. So listen to this. Ivan walks in at night to Moshe and he says, give me whiskey. Moshe gives him some whiskey. But Ivan doesn't pay right away. I'll pay before I leave, he says. By the 4th glass, Ivan is out. Gegangen. All night long he drinks like a glass after glass. Then Moshe says, so you owe me for 100 glasses of whiskey, Ivan. Ivan says, what are you, crazy? I had 3 or 4, a maximum. And he whipped Moshe over the face. What can Moshe do? Ivan would pay him for 3 glasses, but he drank 10 or 20. So every year to all those Moshe's Nebuch, they all went bankrupt. So what did these so-called noble people do? They would either kill him or throw him into prison. They would take away their wife, their children, and that's what it was. What could they do? This Moshe hadn't paid rent in 2 years. He had no money. Because the Ivans of his community are coming in and just taking all of his whiskey. A nobleman, what the world calls noble, a nobleman comes to Moshe and says, Moshe, today is Monday. If by next Monday you don't pay the rent, I kill you. And he meant it. Nebuch, Moshe comes home to his wife and says, what are we going to do? There's no way of paying the rent. She says, I want you to know, I heard from some neighbors that there's a Rebbe by the name of Melech. A Rebbe by the name of Melech in Lezhensk here. You go to him, write out on a piece of paper what you need and he helps you. Try it. You have nothing else. You have nothing to lose. Now this Moshe was really a very crude person. He didn't know anything. He knew a little bit how to write. He took a big piece of paper as big as a table and he wrote in big letters, Melech, I can't pay the rent. Help me. He Nebuch only had 1 pair of shoes. He didn't want to use them up and wear them out, so he hung them over his neck and he walked barefoot to Rabbi Melech with this big piece of paper under his arm. On the way, he meets up with the Chevra Kadisha, the holy group. This could be the Chevraya Kadisha. The Chevraya Kadisha, a holy group, on his way. Who does he see? He sees the seer of Lublin, the Chayze of Lublin. He sees Rav Mendel Ribbenover, and he sees the holy Rapshitzer. Could you imagine? On their way to the Melech. Do you understand what Hashem gave to us in the world? With these tzaddikim? Understand what we're talking about here? And that in a world where there was so much darkness, God sent these humongous luminaries.
Hey, Rabbi, speaking of which, in this time in Poland, weren't you telling me that the Yiddish Kodosh, Rav Tzadok, I forgot who it was, would have a Suda with 100 people all at Ruach HaKodesh?
The Chayzim Lublin. He would only there was times where he would only have his Pesach Seder with Balei Ruach HaKodesh. If you're a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, then you can come to his Pesach Seder. And he had hundreds and hundreds of Yidden. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? So this Moshe Lamamish meets up. He meets up. And this Chavraya Kadisha thought this is some special Yiddle. Let's see what he's doing. They had this thing, like there's something with Moshe. So the seer of Lublin says to him, hey, where are you going? So the Yid says, I'm going to Melech. Ah, we're also going to Melech. Tell me, what do you have under your arm? It's a private letter to Melech. The seer of Lublin says, can I see the letter? Now you know he could see it already. He's the Chayzim of Lublin. He says, I really don't want to show it to you, but since you asked me, I'll show it to you. And everybody knows that the seer of Lublin, he could see from one corner of the world to the next. He can mamish read letters. He could see everything. He sees the letter and said, Moshe, listen to me. Next Monday, don't show your face on the street. Because if your landlord sees you next Monday, he'll kill you. Don't go in the street. So Moshe says, what kind of chutzpah is it that you're giving me advice? I'm on my way to Melech. He'll tell me what to do. And he's mamish blowing up. He's getting angry at the Chayzim of Lublin. These 3 tzaddikim stay right behind him until they all get to Lezhensk, because they want to know what's going on. Moshe runs right in, and 3 of them are all right behind him on his tail. He takes out the piece of paper and he says, Melech, read my letter. So the Rebbes are so holy. When they read a letter, not only They know what it says. They also know what it doesn't say. It's a big thing to give letters to tzaddikim. It says they see things. You know, the Yenuka says that if you're not on a darga to know what the letter says before you get it, you shouldn't be accepting fitlach. They also know who read it. So Rabbi Elimelech gives a little sign to the seer of Lublin and says, hey, Yankov Yitzchak, you read it already. Yankov Yitzchak is the Chayzim of Lublin. So Rabbi Elimelech's like, I think he read this one already, right? Then he says, Moshe, listen to me. But listen to me with all your heart and listen to every word that I'm saying to you. When the nobleman comes and asks you to stay, tell him, you cannot stay unless he gives you 10,000 rubles. Excuse me? It says when the nobleman comes and he asks you to stay in the apartment, the landlord, say that I will not stay until you give me 10,000 rubles. It's so amazing that our friends around the world are listening to this story with us. This is beyond. If anybody here is from Lezhensk, that would be amazing. Is anybody here from Poland that's watching with us? Because Lezhensk is still a very special place. Very special. This is crazy, Moshe says. The nobleman said he would kill me because I haven't paid the rent. And now I should tell him I'm not staying unless he gives me 10,000 rubles. Rabbi, you're crazy. Melech is a meshugana. And he runs out. He comes back to his wife. What a waste. On the way, these crazy, like holy hippies, the rebbelas, they read my letter, they give me advice, and the Rebbe, he's completely crazy. They say that I should tell the nobleman who wants to kill me because I have not paid the rent. He tells me that I should tell him to give me 10,000 rubles. Meshugane. Forget it. He forgets the whole thing, blocks out the whole thing. And on Monday, he stupidly and sadly goes on the street. The nobleman comes on a horse with a whip in his hand. He says, hey, Moshe, where's the rent? He says, please have compassion on me. I'm telling you, I don't have it. He gets off his horse and he whips Moshe and he's nearly dead. He can't even walk and blood is streaming all over. He's mamish rolling himself on the street till he comes home. So Shlomo says, now you have to open your hearts. He says, even in Germany, every Nazi had one Jew they liked. Because you got to cover up all the hatred. That's a deep line. So the woman, the wife of this nobleman, had one Jew that she liked. The wife of the nobleman had also one Jew, and it happened to be Moshe. Why did she like him? Because in those days the nobleman had a little Moshekle, and he would get them bargains. Moshe would go to the city and come back to the wife of the nobleman and tell him that he can get her apples for half price. He would tell her that he get jewelry for cheap. So Moshe would help, So 2 days later, the wife of the nobleman says, I haven't seen Moshe. Where's my Moshe? He says to her, you're Moshe? I think he's dead. I think I killed him. What? What kind of chutzpah is that? You want to kill Jews? Kill somebody else, but don't kill my Moshe. He gets me the biggest bargains. So the nobleman says, wait, he might still be alive. What do you mean he might still be alive? You better make up with him. I need him. I want him around. Okay. Well, what didn't you do for your wife? He gets up, took a sack of potatoes to make up for Moshe. He's on his way to Moshe, and Moshe's Nebuch sees through the window the nobleman is coming, and he knows that his time, now he's coming to kill me, to finish me off for good. He barricades himself, and the nobleman is knocking on his door. Moshe doesn't answer. Nebuch. He's standing there with his wife shivering. The nobleman isn't stupid. He realized Moshe thinks I'm going to kill him. He yells to him, Moshe, I'm not going to kill you. I'm coming to beg you to stay. Gewalt. He remembers what Rabbi Melech said, and he says, I could only stay if you give me 10,000 rubles. There's no way of me ever paying you back. If you give me 10,000 rubles, I can mamish put my business into action. I'll pay you the rent. He says, okay, I'll give you 10,000 rubles. Just open already. He gives him 10,000 rubles, and Moshe gets richer and richer and richer. By this time, he doesn't have a little kretschmer. He mamish has a big business, a wagon, horses. He even has a few pairs of shoes. One day his wife says to him, Moshe, you know something? This is all from the Rebbe Rabbi Melech. He didn't even go back to say thank you to him. It's all his blessing. So he puts his wife and his children on the wagon and brings potatoes, chicken, salad. He puts it on the wagon as gifts to Rabbi Melech. He walks into Rabbi Melech and he says, Melech, it worked. And the seer of Lublin was also standing right there.
Who is it?
The Chayzim of Lublin, who was there in the beginning of the story, who saw the letter the first time. And he says, you have to open your hearts from one end of the world to the other. The Heilige Rabbi Melech looks at the seer of Lublin and he says to him, you see the difference between you and me? Rabbi Melech is speaking to the Chayzim of Lublin. You see and I see. But you see what took place until the hitting, and I see what happens after the hitting. You see what happens until the hitting, and I see what happens after the hitting. So the rabbi of Persia told me, now it's clear to me what my grandfather meant, what we have to do. Vayashkef al pnei Sodom. We have to look into Sodom, into all the riches of the world, into all those that are so far. The Chayzim of Lublin could see until what's going to be, all the hitting, all the challenge. But the Rebbe of Melech, he sees David Malka Mashiach. He sees with Avram Avinu eyes. He sees what's going to happen mamish after the hitting. Friends, we need to mamish be pupils of Avram Avinu. Be from the Talmid of Avram Avinu.
I like the double lashon our pupils of Avram Avinu. We need to see like Avram Avinu and be students of him.
That's right, Hashkifa. This is Reb Shlomo. This is Reb Shlomo. So maybe we'll have a few questions from our friends. Feel free to ask, to learn from Shlomo, to learn from David Malka Mashiach. We invite our friends, maybe Yosel, if you see, if there's questions that are matim, the siyata d'shmaya. Maybe if people want to share where they're writing from today, where we're learning from today. It's always wonderful to know where we are together in this journey.
I was going to ask, as far as stories goes, as far as hotels and Chayzer and Sea of Lublin, can you share the story about the clock?
So the Chayzim of Lublin, the Chayz was a big tzaddik, the Chayzim of Lublin. So one time somebody came to an inn and he didn't have enough money to pay. And he gave a gift. And they were children from the Chayzim of Lublin. They gave a gift to the Kretschmann. They gave a clock. And many years later, people were staying in this inn. And they were in one of the rooms that had this clock that was a gift, like these old grandfather clocks. And they couldn't sleep the whole night. And they went to the owner of the Kretschmann. They said, I don't know, there's something up with this clock. I don't know what it is, but I can't sleep. And they said, this clock was from the children of the Chayzim of Lublin. And he said, what's special is that most people, when they have a grandfather clock, it's a bit depressing, because every time that it goes boom, boom, makes you feel like, life is getting towards its end. But something about this clock, every time I heard the dong, it meant that we're another step closer to Mashiach. It's all I could think about. So that's the clock of the Chayzeh. Shkoyach Mamish. Shabbos Kodesh. So a few questions from our friends. L'chavod Reb Shlomo. So it's interesting from Quack. Are Mexican Jewish communities considered Jewish? I'm 30% Ashkenaz, but I am man, not woman. I want to marry woman to become Jewish. So I think there's a few things to break down in this question. Number one, there are Jews living in Mexican Jewish communities in Mexico. If your mother is Jewish, then you are Jewish. So if the 30% Ashkenazis from your mother's side, then you're Jewish, Quack. And therefore that's important to know that. We do not let a person marry in order to become Jewish. A person who wants to become Jewish can, but it means that they have to be sincere and want to keep all the mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs, and they have a sincere desire to join the Jewish nation. And if anybody does, they're welcome to join. Thank you, Quack, for the wonderful question.
Rabbi, as far as stories that relate to the Chayzer and Seer of Lublin, I was wondering if you could share the story about the Lulav Rabbi.
So many stories.
The one where he could see the shear that he gave without being there in person.
So it's a bit of a long story. We'll have to have another mishmah when we go into that story. Welcome, Living Lions from Wisconsin. So I see a question. I just went away. Oh. So Dylan is saying that he doesn't want Sharia law or Shabbat law in America. So I can address Shabbat law. Shabbat is only the law for Jewish communities. Shabbat is not law for anybody else. And therefore, if a person is not Jewish, they don't have any of the laws of Shabbat. And that's important to know. And it's good to be aware of that. Thank you so much for that question.
Who do you believe is the Messiah if you don't believe in Jesus?
So the Messiah will come from the lineage of King David. The Messiah will bring peace to the world. So anybody claiming that they know who the Messiah is, so the first question we have to see is, do we have peace in the world yet? And to say that I come not for peace, but for the sword, that is not a messianic belief. That we believe that Mashiach is the ultimate peace bringer for humanity. That all of the weapons will turn to plowshares. And therefore, sadly, we still see too many weapons in the world. And they're not plowshares yet. And therefore, Mashiach is not yet here. And therefore, we're looking forward for Mashiach's arrival very, very soon. Thank you so much for the question.
How long have you been Jewish? I'm genuinely curious and want to learn.
So I've been Jewish since the moment I was born, because my mother is Jewish. And that is over the course of my entire life. So thank you so much for the question.
Rabbi, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there anything that you were aware of that Rabbi Shlomo talked about how it's evident when you listen to him and everything, his music and his Torah got connected? Have you know any reflections that he's said about this?
About Mashiach?
No, about specifically about Shlomo, how his musical connection with Torah, like how that.
He felt that music is, this is all in our sources, how important music is in destiny.
Is that something that's only, like, I know it's Mashiach has to play a song for Hashem. Is the whole music component something that's more allotted to certain people? Because it doesn't seem as though, like, it's not like in yeshiva we have like a 45-minute music class. You know?
I would like if you did have a 45-minute music class in yeshiva.
Okay.
I would be very happy. 45-minute music class sounds great. And Mendel is pointing out that Torah is a song. Torah is a song. Torah is a song. Kisvu lachem shira hazois. So forget about a 45-minute music class. I'm hoping it's a 24-hour a day, all day long. Music, music, more music, music. We love music. The Beis HaMikdash is filled with music. 50,000 50,000 voices, 50,000 piece orchestra, just devoted to God.
Speaking of music and speaking of Rabbi Shlomo, please sing some Rabbi Shlomo Nigunim.
So B'ezrat Hashem, we'll end with a little bit of nigunim from the Olam. Maybe a few more questions from our chevra.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but how do you view the material world after separation from God?
So which nice friend of ours that?
Symbiotic parasite.
Symbiotic. So symbiotic, when God created the world, there was a need for a sense of separation. Otherwise, creation could not exist. Because if there would be no sense of separation, there could be no finite existence. So the only thing that changed after creation was not God. God is infinite. Was that there was an introduction of a new perspective. The perspective of the creation. So symbiotic, I would suggest, is to consider and think, is that you, the creation, the only thing that changed was the perspective of separation. But in truth, God never changed, and God is absolute unity. So really, the separation is just a perspective. And by learning Torah, by learning the Word of God, you're swimming upstream. You're swimming back like a ray of light going back to the surface of the sun. Thank you for such a wonderful question.
What are some signs of the time Mashiach is soon?
Signs that Mashiach is soon. Pnei ador k'pnei kelev. That the face of the generation will resemble the face of a dog.
I was thinking of the same exact
What?
sentence.
The Gemara says that right before Mashiach comes, the face of the generation will be like the face of the dog. So I always am reminded by Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter explained this. He said, when you have a man walking a dog, so who walks in front? The man or the dog? The dog walks in front, right? The dog is going in front, and if you were an alien coming down from outer space, you would think the dog is leading. It's like it's walking in front. But what's the dog always doing? The dog is always peering back to see, where my master is leading. And as soon as the master moves, so the dog will move in that direction. So Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, in the era before Mashiach comes, the leaders, the political leaders, the mayors, they will appear to be leaders, but in fact they will have no core leadership of their own. They'll always be looking back at whatever's trending, whatever the constituents are saying, and they'll change their course based on the real master, the donors, the people behind the scenes. But there won't be real leaders until Mashiach. Mashiach will be a leader of absolute, I follow God's word. That's one of the most important components. Our friend that was speaking to us about Mashiach, a core component to Mashiach coming will be those that understand that the word of God is everything. And that they'll take their orders from on high. But until then, before Mashiach comes, we will see tremendous false leadership. But they'll look like the real leaders. They'll be up in front. The generation will be like the generation of a dog.
Okay, we have a very serious question from Miles Brown. It's very clear. Can you help me answer this question over time? Is it bagel or bagel? Bagel. Bagel.
A bagel?
How do you say it? Is it bagel or bagel?
I think it's a bagel. I see that was a burning question for you, my friend.
He was asked twice.
Burning question.
Crown asked, what are you doing to prepare for Mashiach?
Learning Torah. What I'm doing to prepare for Mashiach is learning a lot of Torah, teaching Torah, trying to be a student of Avram Avinu and love human beings, trying to really help share light with the world, to learn together, to share teachings that go all the way back to Mount Sinai together, that we could grow together. And I think really share what the Jewish mission is. And I think the world really doesn't know what the mission of the Jewish people really is, which is to share love and peace and goodness. It has not been seen as such. And to really shift the narrative that the world knows that the core mission, you can come see it, it's right here in black and white. I don't mean you don't have to wear black, you can wear whatever you want, is that, as long as it's sanua, is that the core mission of the Jewish nation is to be a light to the world. And that really preparing in such a way to try to help to bring that light to the world and be the students of Avram Avinu.
As far as wearing sanua clothing and preparing for Mashiach, isn't it true that the Chaim Adam told others a way to prepare for Mashiach was to have a suit prepared?
Oh, so Yossel's mentioning beautifully, one of the ways to get ready for Mashiach is think to yourself right now, and I invite you all to think. You can answer yes or no. Do you know what you would wear if Mashiach came right now? What outfit do you have? Do you know what your outfit, yes or no? You have an outfit that you would wear when Mashiach comes. I have a certain bekasha that I would wear. I wear it sometimes Purim time, but I'm saying it's my best. The Chofetz Chaim actually had like a reserve suit. I wish was on that darga. But what would you wear? Do you know what you would wear? It happens to be like a blue bekasha. I like colors. So it's a blue bekasha with like flowers, roses on it. It's very beautiful. And that's, I think, my fanciest garment. And it's like robe-like. It's like more biblical style, which is more my style. I like long clothing. I think this is more like a European thing. I'm more into like biblical garb myself. So I've got that reserved for Mashiach. And strimal, or a turban if we could bring that back. I think we should go back to the turbans, personally. But you have to go shlav, one step at a time. And so I ask you all, do you know what you would wear when Mashiach comes? Do you have your finest drippy clothing that you would wear when Mashiach comes? It's a very important thing, because that's a very practical way it's not far away. Many tzaddikim, they would keep their walking stick beside their bed.
Or a suitcase?
Their suitcase with their walking stick. Mashiach's coming out, my walking stick, I'm going to greet Mashiach. So to think, you have to imagine it. See, peacefully, Yeshua means I'm anticipating, I'm yearning Mashiach. It's like, this is happening. This is happening. Are you aware? And so much of the blessing of Christianity, which we've spoken about many times in the Rambam, is that they're preparing the world with such a messianic consciousness that people should be thinking that there's going to be a redemption, there's going to be a savior, that's in the collective consciousness now. That is tremendous paving of the great days that are coming on a global scale. Think about it, on a global scale. So yes, very, very important to think about Mashiach, the coming of Mashiach.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Tzaddik. Okay, last question from our dear friends.
I've got a question, or at least it's more of a song recommendation. Cover Reb Shlomo's yard site, and Shabbos coming up. Can we sing the song of Shabbos?
Yes, please, please.
Okay, we'll have one more question, then we'll go into the song of Shabbos.
What will Mashiach wear?
What will Mashiach wear? One of the things that we know about Mashiach is everyone will agree this is Mashiach. So I think the Chassidim will look at him and say, wow, nice bekasha. I think the Litvish will look at him and say, what a frock. Like that is, I think the Sephardim will say like, what a robe. I think that every faction will feel like he has the drippiest clothing of their group. And that's one of the amazing things. Like the Reform world will say he's so progressive, like he's so with it and so progressive. And everyone's going to feel like he got it. He got the whole picture. He really has the whole picture. So my friends, you're welcome to sing with us for a moment. We're going to share, we're going to sing a song that Rabbi Shlomo wrote about Shabbos. And it goes like this. Mizamor, mizamor, shir, Shili Yoim HaShabbat, Mizmor, Mizmor Shir. Shili Yoim HaShabbat, Mizmor, Mizmor Shir. Shili Yoim HaShabbat, Mizmor, Mizmor Shir. Shili Yoim HaShabbat, Mizmor Shir. Shili Yoim HaShabbat, Mizmor Shir. Shili Yoim HaShabbat, the whole wide world is waiting to sing the song of Shabbat. The whole wide world is waiting to sing the song of Shabbat. And I am also waiting to sing the song of Shabbos. I am also waiting to sing the song of Shabbos. Shlomo's neshama should have an aliyah.